Hello dudes! As I mentioned in the last video, a really big part of playing blues guitar is string bending. So we're going to have a bit of a closer look at that right now, about the different ways that you do string bends in blues, and particularly what notes get bent if you want to start to improvise a bit and muck around with the scale. You have to realise that there's certain notes that you bend and certain ones you don't, and you have to bend them a certain distance as well. It's not just, you know, I'll pick this note and bend it, because it's probably going to sound a little bit, well, rubbish. So let's just have the first thing I want to talk about is the blues curl, which is, now this is kind of my word for it. There's a lot of the other guitar teachers at the Guitar Institute that talk about this curl, but I'm not really sure. Some magazines and stuff call it a quarter tone bend. It's kind of, it's a little bit different to a regular bend, because you don't put it on right at the beginning. You kind of hold the note first and then put a little curl on it. So if I'm playing it here on this, it's not, if I just play it without a curl and then I put a curl on, you can hear it's got a little, it's like a, yeah, it's just like a little kind of like a little ski ramp at the end, yeah, as opposed to like where you bend straight off. It's now, it nearly always happens on a particular note in the blues scale, and this is the minor third, which in the key of A is the note C. So a good exercise can be to play your minor pentatonic scale up and down and add in a little curl every time you hit the note C, because nearly all the time if you're playing blues and you hit the note C, it sounds cool to curl it. What you're really doing, if you, for those that are more technically minded, you're trying to curl it kind of halfway between the minor third and the major third. You're not going exactly as far as the major third, but you're kind of getting, you're leaning a bit in that direction. It kind of, it's a big part of the blues sound, is the mixture of major and minor. Something that I'll talk about in a later lesson, I'm sure. So if we just played the A minor pentatonic scale and put a little curl on, we'd have A here. Here we go for the curl. So we'd play this first note, there's your curl, play. Now this is the next note that curl on. There's the C. Here's the C again. Hopefully you can see right away that adding that curl in really kind of adds to the blues flavour quite a lot. So definitely have a check out of your curls. So now, next question. Which are the notes that we can bend on the blues scale, and how far do we have to bend them? So there's basically, in this position 1 minor pentatonic scale, which is the one that we're doing and the one that I'd recommend you stay doing until you kind of get it sorted and can play kind of, you know, a decent little solo in position 1 before you learn the other positions. Is the thinnest 3 strings that you play with your third finger can be bent 1 tone. So like the note would sound 2 frets higher than the note that you're bending from. So let me go through and show that to you now as a close-up. Okay, so here we are, the notes that you're going to bend. Here's your minor pentatonic. And the notes that you're going to bend is this one, and you're going to bend that a tone, so up to here. And that's because that's the next note in the scale. Sometimes you can bend this a semitone, but they're only under over particular chords, so we're not going to be covering that one yet today. So this note for now is always a tone. That one you're not going to bend. That's going to sound really horrible if you bend that note, so don't do it. Now the next note down the scale is this one, which is the note G, which also bends a tone. It's also, the note that it's bending to is the same as that note. So if you're doing a bend with 2 fingers, which you probably shouldn't be doing straight away, but you'll probably find yourself doing fairly quickly, you can check it against that they should be the same. So you've got this note for a tone, then this for a tone. Again, that one you're not going to bend. You can put vibrato on it for sure, but don't bend it because it'll sound really horrible. Yeah, both that note and that note, the 2 notes on the thinnest strings that you play with your first finger, sound really rancid if you try and bend on them, so don't. Next note down, this one also bends a tone. Which is the same here. So, worth practicing? Now, as for these notes, you don't tend to bend them a lot in blues. You can bend this one a minor third, which is a big bend, and it's quite tough to do, and you have to bend the other way. So I don't recommend that you start bending any of those thicker strings. Just practice doing. You now know which of the notes you're allowed to bend and which of the notes you are not allowed to bend. It's really important that you practice just bending those notes, because the amount of times I see students trying to bend those other notes, and I mean you can bend them later on, but you've got to bend them like a minor third distance, which is quite hard when you're starting out, and it's kind of a risky game. You have to really know what you're doing before you do that. So just stick to those notes and your blues solos are going to sound cool. Make sure you get your bends in tune. If your guitar is properly in tune, like that you've tuned it correctly using the tuning pegs, you can't actually play out of tune. You can play bad notes, but you're not playing out of tune unless you do string bends. So string bending can really make you sound awful if you don't do it right. So really get a lot of emphasis on your string bending. I just want to give you a quick look at my picking hand as well, so you can see what I'm talking about when I mean that it's kind of muting after the bend. You can see my hand's positioned here. If I do a bend, of course you can't see my bending hand, but if I pick, mute, and then I can release the bend without a sound coming out. So otherwise you get. So hopefully that gives you a bit of a look at that right hand mute thing. Really, really important idea. Thought you might find that useful to have a quick look at the 2 different views of that hand. It's just kind of twisting like that a little bit. So if you're finding that really difficult, you've probably got your hand in a funny position. So just make sure that your hand is well situated above the strings, nice and flat all of the way down from your elbow down to your thumb. So your wrist should be quite straight. If your wrist is really bent like that and you're trying to pick out the end, ain't going to do you very much good at all. It's not a good way to play. Now we're going to talk about actually how the kind of the art of improvisation with your licks and with your scale. We talked about it a little bit in the beginner's course on again the beginner's course on the website. Now we're going to have a little bit more of a look at actually what that means, incorporating these licks and stuff into your blues playing. Take care guys, make sure you practice that nice and hard before the next lesson. See you soon, bye bye.